And kind of going back to, why I started in the reining versus like some of the other events. I guess one thing that I always kind of thought too is on the business side of things was, man, like a little old lady could buy a good reiner and go show that thing, and maybe it doesn't go well, but she could still go to the horse show for a long time. And, where they're not going to always be able to go down the fence on the cow or whatever. But I just like that reining because it's like, man, anybody could do it.
You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
Welcome to The Ride, a bi-weekly podcast brought to you by Horse and Rider Magazine, co-hosted by Nichole Chirico and Devin Conley. In each episode, we chat with some of the industry's top trainers, clinicians, horsekeeping experts, and professionals to share inspiring stories, training philosophies, and the importance of living your best Western horse life. On this episode of The Ride, we sit down to talk to Eric Priest, a reining trainer based out of Bell Center, Ohio, who's known for his ability to connect with riders of all level and training horses that excel at reining competition. Eric was also named Horse and Rider's 2024 Trainer of the Year. The Trainer of the Year program was implemented to recognize horse trainers who have had a positive impact on their clients in the industry. Nominations for this contest involved both a written essay and a video outlining the contributions of this trainer. The program is an opportunity to highlight and celebrate horse trainers who exemplify what it means to be a good steward of the equine industry. Out of all the trainers nominated, 10 finalists were selected, with one earning the title of Trainer of the Year. Prizes for the 2024 Horse and Rider Trainer of the Year were provided by Nutramax Laboratories Veterinary Sciences, the makers of Cosequin, and included a custom arena banner, a custom silver buckle, and an annual subscription to Horse and Rider magazine. Cosequin also generously surprised Priest and his team with a check for $5,000 to help him and his family rebuild after a catastrophic barn fire that occurred this summer. In this episode, Priest talks a little bit about what it takes to find a horse that can compete at a high level competition like the reining, and also talks about how he helps his non-pro riders reach all of their goals, whether it's going into the show pen for the first time or competing at some of the industry's largest events. This episode is brought to you by Cosequin. Cosequin, the #1 veterinarian recommended joint health supplement brand, is excited to bring to you Cosequin ASU Balance. This formula supports joint, immune, and digestive health. Cosequin ASU Balance helps moderate the inflammatory responses that can cause immune and GI tract disturbances through the innovative inclusion of postbiotics and beta-glucans. The formula also includes the joint support Cosequin is known for, with ingredients such as ASU, hyaluronic acid, and Boswellia serrata extract. With over 30 years behind the Cosequin name, you can rely on Cosequin products when performance matters. To learn more, speak with your veterinarian or visit cosequin.com. We'd like to thank Cosequin for sponsoring this episode of The Ride. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Ride. This is your host, Nichole Chirico, and today we are talking with Horse and Rider's Trainer of the Year, Eric Priest. Eric is a trainer based out of Ohio who focuses on reining performance horses, but also works with a ton of non-pros who come from a wide range of backgrounds. So, Eric, thank you. Congratulations, first of all, but thank you for getting on the podcast and talking with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So for those who might not be familiar with your background in the horse industry, or maybe don't have a lot of information on the performance horse world, can you talk to our audience a little bit and talk about how you got involved in horses to begin with?
Yeah, just kind of, my timeline of how I got involved. I started out just a 4-H kid and just wanting to ride horses, just always wanting to be a cowboy. And as I progressed kind of through 4-H and got into high school, I met a lady who was actually still in the reining very much, named Suzanne Cooper, who started getting into reiners. And, of course, we had bred an old mare or whatever and had a baby, so I wanted to learn how to start it. And she was working with a trainer at the time. So she's like, oh, you should come up and he'll help you with your colt. And he did, and he showed me some stuff. And I was like, man, this is really cool. Because up until then, my horse training knowledge was watching like Clinton Anderson on Sunday mornings and reading stuff. We didn't really have all the YouTube videos and stuff. But I just was drawn to it, just being able to take a horse and make it do something that not everybody can or figure out. So after that, and then I found out that I could go to college for that. So I went to the University of Findlay, and even though I'd started some horses and been in 4-H, I really didn't know what horse showing or the reining really was. That's kind of how ignorant or naive I was. I was so green that I'd started some colts, but when I showed up to Findlay, Clark Bradley came riding up and told me I was holding my reins wrong. So I was pretty green, but I really wanted it, and I knew there was more out there. So obviously through being at Findlay, I kind of obviously learned what the reining was, what the horse show was, and kind of what the performance industry could be.
I guess if you're going to learn reining from anyone, it might as well be Clark Bradley.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Findlay was a great time. And having, like I said, when I went there, we had Clark Bradley and Steve Brown, Mary Scheffler. They were all there. And it was just a really good group of instructors. And they really, would help you get out in the industry and took their time and really taught you the ins and outs of everything.
You really too. So you're based in Ohio, and for those who might not be familiar with, reining was actually pretty much started in Ohio. And so I bet you have, there's so many legends who are from there and who kind of grew up in those circles and trained out there. So it was that a really cool perspective to just kind of be in kind of the founding place of reining.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Dale Wilkinson basically started the Findlay program. So there's just so much history. And then you get to be around someone like Clark, who was around for all of that. And so he could tell you the stories, and there's still things that little bits of knowledge they would pass on and be like, this is something Dale always said or Dale always did, and it's always worked for us, or just those little tidbits that's like, wow, like this was the guy that invented it and something that's still working. It's cool to just have that in your back of your mind, or even in your horse training toolbox today.
Yeah, I know. It always surprises me that people that don't realize that, Ohio of all places, because you always think Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, that's where all those big horse shows are. But yes, it was in fact Ohio, the Midwest. I'm from the Midwest, so a little bit of Midwest pride there.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so you obviously got a taste for reining when you were in college. When did you start competing in it? And, what kind of drew you towards the reining versus maybe some of the horsemanship events or the pleasure events and some of the other events that you might experience when you're in school?
Um, well, I guess while I was at Findlay, I definitely liked like the cow horse stuff. I liked the cutting, did the ranch horse team. So I really loved those events. Enjoyed we like to rope a little bit, that kind of thing. But then what really kind of changed my mind and got me real focused is uh, one of the summers there, I went and worked for Matt Flaherty, interned for him over the summer. And I was fortunate enough, it was when he was in Kentucky, um, renting stalls with his dad. So I was around Matt and Mike Flaherty for a summer. And they were just two of the coolest guys. They changed my life and really gave me a direction in the performance horse world, just to see their work ethic, their horsemanship, their drive. After that summer, I was like, yeah, I like the cow horse stuff, but man, the detailed oriented, details that you have to have for the reining just drives me. I just like how they have to be so soft and collected, and everything about it is just an art form. And that really took a hold for me being around those guys that summer. And so that's kind of when I was like, all right, I like the cow horse stuff, but I think this is something that I really want to do. Plus, if you look at it kind of from a business standpoint, it's hard to keep cows and do all that thing. So that's kind of where I got my desire for the reining.
So you went to school, obviously. Findlay has a great equestrian program that's been known for years upon years now. So were you in school and you were like, this is what I want to do? I want to be a reining trainer, or was there a different avenue that you were kind of pursuing within the equine industry before you were like, nope, this is what I want to do?
No, at that time, I kind of, after that summer, I decided like I was in, and it was eat, sleep, and breathe it. I would take on as many horses as they would let me. If there was an extra one I could ride, I was riding it at the barn early, getting extra help from the instructors. Like I was in, I was all in. So I'd say from that summer on, this is what I was going to do. If I had to sell the shirt off my back, it was going to work.
I like it. You've obviously mentioned a couple people who were big mentors for you while you were in school. Was there anyone else that you would consider a reining mentor after you graduated, when you had decided you were going to go and become an NRHA professional, and you were working for someone?
Um, yeah, I mean, I hate to forget some because there's a lot of people along the way. I'd say once I graduated, um, I still remained in pretty close contact with my instructors. Um, I was still able to call upon Matt if I had questions. I had an instructor at Finley. I spent a lot of time with Art O'Brien. I'd call on him still call him sometimes to this day. And then after Finley, I went to go work for the McQuays. I was there for a few years, and I got, of course, you're around Tim all the time, but I was really around a lot with Sam Schaffhauser. Helped me out a lot, taught me a lot about horses, a lot about just being patient and letting them come to you. Um, After McQuays, I was there for a few years. I went and showed for Dutch Chapman out on the East Coast, and of course, he's a Hall of Famer and just known for getting those horses to go through the show pen and world titles and runs. And so just a lot of the tricks to keeping a horse going in there run after run and going down the road, just little things like that they pick up from everybody. And then, of course, now being on my own, and I started renting stalls off Brandon Brandt and Kathy Brandt a few years ago. And me and Brandon have become really good buddies, but he's also just taken kind of the program I had built and helped me uh, grow it even more. And just obviously, you're riding around with another really good trainer every day, bouncing ideas. But he's just taken it and helped me to grow and expand and just become a better horseman every day. I mean, so I think it's not just one person or a few. It's just as you go through this journey, you're always just picking up something from people here and there, but those guys really stick out, and I can still make a phone call to them today. But I think what all those guys have in common is they're all horsemen. I've just always been fortunate to be around really good horsemen, not just, yeah, they're reiners, but at the end of the day, they're horsemen. It wouldn't matter what kind of horse they're riding or what discipline they could easily go into any discipline they wanted, but the horsemanship and the care for the horse and training the horse through its mind, through its body, that would all still be there. And that's, I think, something that I've kind of taken away from all of them that I've noticed. That's a common factor among all of them.
I think that's one thing that really stood out to me when we were selecting our trainer of the year, is that everybody who had nominated you, the first thing that they mentioned was how much you care for the horse, and being a good horseman and putting the horse first. And so that's something that really stood out to me. There are, of course, so many other things that are the people who nominated you had to say in terms of your program and how you are with teaching non-pros, everywhere from like people who are just beginning in the sport to people who have been competing for years and have goals to compete at some of the largest shows in the country. Can you tell us a little bit about your training program and like what your training philosophy has become after working for so many legendary horsemen?
Sure. People, yeah, I don't know if I could say I have a philosophy. Um, that's that's way too complicated for a horse trainer, right?
This
So
this
yeah,
this question always gets people tied up. They're like, I don't
yeah,
know.
you just get on and ride them. No, I think for me, one, yeah, you're it's care for the horse, because if the horse isn't taken care of, you have nothing. So the horse comes first, whether it be, the feed, the supplements, the hoof care, just all the basics need to be at the highest level that that horse needs, or you're able to provide it. But that has to come first. And then secondly, I think the horse's ability and mental capacity, is it able to do what we're going to ask it for? And if not, then we have to meet that horse on its level. I am never going to be an NFL linebacker, but maybe I could play in the flag football league. So to me, like, there's so many horses that sometimes, especially like the young ones I see come through that I've gotten from different places, it's like, man, this horse was never going to be a level 4 horse. We probably shouldn't have tried to they probably shouldn't have tried to force it into that. So what are we going to make it now? Is he going to be a level 1 horse? Is he going to be a rookie horse? Is he going to be a green reiner? Where does he want to be? Where can he fit in? And if he doesn't fit in for us, that's okay. Then he's not for us, or he's not for me, and we just try to help him find another avenue in life. We don't junk him, or we don't try to cripple him every day riding him. We just find out where he can fit in. And I think that for me is where it all starts. And then once we find the horse that fits, and a horse that we think is capable for what we want it to do, as far as when I swing a leg over their back, um, I try to think about, like, I try to train that mind first and then their body, and see where it all kind of flows from there. And obviously then, yeah, just keep it simple, ride it around, make it do what you want. No, that, I just try to train their mind and then their body, and always be, whatever I'm doing, stop and think two things. One, am I being fair? Like, yes, I need to hold this horse to a level of discipline, but also I'm going to be fair to whatever he's doing or I need from him that day. And then two, in the back of my mind, is someone is going to ride this horse after me, whether it be a client, whether I sell it, whether, we're out there riding around. I'm like, hey, Brandon, can you jump on this horse and let me watch it, or tell me what you think? Someone has to get on after me. And so I always have in the back of my mind, like, I don't want to create something that, one, could ever be dangerous for anybody, or two, could, somebody gets on and is like, man, what the heck's going on? I want to create a horse that is maybe not their feel. Everybody's feel is different, but a horse that's moldable, not only to me, but someone else can get on that. I always feel good when I ask, like, Brandon to jump on mine and I'm having a trouble or something, and in like 5 or 10 minutes he can make it better or correct it or tell me what's happening. To me, I may not be getting exactly what I want, but I've trained that horse that's moldable, to where if someone with a different opinion or a different style of maybe getting what I want can help me and the horse, and they can take that and go on, then even though I might not be getting the result I need, I've done my job, because that horse is able to learn.
I think you say something really interesting that I haven't really heard anybody else say that has been on this podcast. I love that you said that you want to create a good horse for the person that's going to ride the horse after you, whether that's one of your clients or you guys sell the horse and it goes on to be a ranch riding horse or goes to somebody else's program. I think that's so incredibly important.
For sure. I think, kind of not forgetting where you came from. When I first hung out my shingle and literally hung out my shingle, I was riding anything, like anything that would pay the bills. Obviously, I always wanted to be reiners, but I didn't have all those in the barn. I mean, at one point I trained a fjord. And just in case you're wondering, they don't really stop or turn around. But you know what? I got that. I taught him to lope, and I taught him to track a roping dummy. He had a purpose. And he went on to do something else. So I feel like through doing that and getting to where I'm at now, that's always in the back of my mind. Someone else is going to get on it, and needs to be able to do a job. Now, there's some horses I do believe that are maybe just dangerous per se or whatever, and those ones, they're not meant to have a job. But I'm also going to be real honest with the people and let them know that this isn't going to work, and they should probably they can try someone else, or they probably shouldn't swing a leg over it. I'll just tell them that. I'll be honest. But as long as the horse is willing to work with me and I can get something done with it, I will try my hardest. Because I don't like to think of a horse going to waste, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I I think that's great. The barn that I'm at is part horse rescue, and some of those horses go to waste and they end up at our barn, and they've had great careers, and it blows my mind.
Sure.
So yeah, no, I get it. So one of the other things that really stood out when some of your clients were nominating you for this award was your ability to coach non-pro riders of all ages, of all skill sets, backgrounds. And I think that it's super important to be able to communicate with non-pro riders. And I think that it takes a special person to be able to not only ride a horse and train a horse to be a high-end reining horse, but to also be able to instruct somebody else that maybe doesn't have that same skill set or background to be successful in the show pen as well. Can you talk a little bit about your non-pro program and the kind of clients that come into your barn and have kind of seen success from the start of it to their current careers?
Yeah, sure. I guess right now we kind of got people at all different levels. Um, Green Rainers, Rookie Raiders, non-pros, a couple good youth kids. And so to me, same thing. Like when they come in, I just try to meet them where they want to be. And I'm very like, all right, what's our plan for you and your horse? And then I want to stick to that plan. Is it you want to go to the bigger shows this year? Okay, that's what we got to do. Do you want to just go try to mark a 70 somewhere this year? Okay, here's what we're going to do to get there. And so then kind of the same way with how I ride, I'm like, I'm going to meet them at that level. And then I'm going to tell them, okay, I think you can meet this level. Here's where you're at. Here's where we got to be. Or, hey, like, we're going to have to do this much work to get you there. Or we may even you don't have the right horse right now to get where you want to be. So I just first start out by trying to create a plan for them and make sure they're on board with it. And then when we start going to work, we're just try to be as meticulous about what we're striving for and just short-term, long-term goals and try to hit those benchmarks as we go. And then from that plan, whether we meet it or not at the end of the year, we just reevaluate and go on and trying to just get better. I think that's my main thing. Like, I just want to see people grow. I just want to see them get better. Whether we shoot for the stars and we miss, that's all right. But if they got better somewhere, or their horse got better, or their horsemanship got better throughout the year, to me, that's a win. And I always try to remind them of that. Like, hey, we might go in the pen and spin five times, but I'll be like, man, those were the fastest 5 spins you've ever had. You got it started good and shut off. Like, take the little wins. So I think I just try to always keep it positive when they need it. And I'll come down on them a little hard when they need to know too. But I just try to remind them why we do this and keep it kind of more like a growth thing. And it's kind of fun now as we're building back. I got a few clients that decide they want to go for the young horses maybe and let me build them one. And so that means this coming year, if they're a 2 coming 3, I'm going to have them this 3-year-old year. But again, they're able to get on them and I'll let them ride them and they can be a part of that process. And then I can teach them a little bit of stuff. And it's kind of fun because they grow as a rider and 2, they can realize like, wow, your job's harder than you make it look sometimes. I'm like, yeah, you see, like, you want to know why he doesn't want to go to the left? Well, now you feel where all this starts at. So I just try to always keep it like a growth thing and just keep making those little benchmarks to eventually get where we want to be.
There's got to be a really big sense of pride too when you see one of your clients, especially on a young one that, like you said, you help build, go in the show pen and see success. And even if that success is spinning 5 times really well, really fast, shutdowns are great. There's
Right.
got to be a sense of pride of being able to, I don't know. I feel like if I were in your shoes, I'd be so happy and so excited to see my clients who trusted the process and believed in it, and even through all the hard times when the left lead was, not doing what it was supposed to, like, just getting through it and then being able to see that success.
Yeah, that's the little successes, whether it's the clients or in the training, that's the drug you're addicted to. Um, that's every morning, even though you might be banging your head against the wall. Every morning you get out of bed. Well, today it could be better. And then when it is, it's like, yes, it's just enough to keep you coming back for more. But it's very rewarding. And especially for the clients that we've brought up from, they showed them the green or the rookie, and now they're entering the non-pro, or they're getting a taste of some of the derbies, and we're going to some of the bigger shows. Man, that's just awesome. Because it's like, man, hey, you weren't going in there and marking a 73 2 years ago, and now look where you're at. That's pretty incredible for me. That's a lot of why I do it.
Something else that really I love about the Rainers, and it's kind of what you were just talking about, is there's so much room for growth where people can start in that rookie division and then kind of move up the ranks into more of the non-pro derby stuff or the fraternity stuff. And there seems to be like a place for everyone.
For sure. And kind of going back to, why I started in the reining versus like some of the other events. I guess one thing that I always kind of thought too is on the business side of things was, man, like a little old lady could buy a good reiner and go show that thing, and maybe it doesn't go well, but she could still go to the horse show for a long time. And, where they're not going to always be able to go down the fence on the cow or whatever. But I just like that reining because it's like, man, anybody could do it. Um, and they could be successful or at least have some longevity in it. Um, and you're right. They can grow, they can move up, stay where you're at, enjoy your horse. But it's just something I always felt anybody could do and enjoy.
Yeah, I love that about the reining as well. Kind of going off of some of your non-pros, obviously getting a horse ready for a horse show is so much different than getting your non-pros ready to mentally be ready in the show pen. Do you kind of have any advice that you give your non-pros to kind of keep their confidence up, or any kind of ways to kind of motivate them when maybe things aren't great outside in the warm-up pen, or whatever it might be?
Yeah, make them all do 50 push-ups and run a mile. No, I'm just kidding.
I like that. No, everybody should do that.
Yeah, no. It just comes down again to having that plan and doing a lot of homework at home. We're going to be as prepared as we can when we go to the horse show. We're going to practice at home. We're going to run a pattern. And I don't know if it's right or wrong, but you can ask my clients when they show up at the barn, they ride. I've had like multiple clients be like, man, that first few lessons with you, like, we went home, we were sore, or we couldn't walk for 3 days. Like we ride, and not like we sit there and put tons of miles on our horses, but when you show up, we're going to work on stuff. And even if I have to sacrifice like a little bit of the horse training per se, like I might have somebody go through the middle a bunch of times and change the lead to where the horses, I'm like, kind of see things coming undone, but I know that the rider needs to practice this. And then that's where I just got to trust my program and my skills. Like, I'll put the horse back together in a couple of days, but the rider has to figure this out. Otherwise we're doing this for nothing. So I'll let them practice. I'll let them practice good. I'll let them practice bad, and we'll do it over and over at home. So that way, hopefully when we get to the horse show, there's no surprises. And then when we're at the horse show, obviously things can go awry, but I feel like most of my clients are pretty understanding, and we just have a plan also that we make at home. Like, okay, if we get to the horse show, we know that he likes to do this when we get there. We're going to try to school it at home. When we get there and he does this, here's what we're going to do. And along with that, like, we try to plan out our shows when we're going to go to these weekend shows, don't even think about trying to go put a run on your horse. I don't care how good he feels, you're going to pick up and steer him here in order to get ready for a bigger show. So just a lot of planning and preparation to where they have the confidence and they can start feeling some of that, to where like adding some of those lower pressure shows in there to where they can go in the show pen and they can think and they can feel more things than showing up at the big show and like, okay, time to shine, you have to do it. Just preparing them as much as the horses. And then right before they go in the show pen, we might try to review some things, but I just always tell them show slow and smooth with your hand, and don't run past pretty. I mean, just be cool and collected, and no matter how much of a barn burning run you're putting on, don't run past pretty. You know what you got. When we get there, we've known what we got. We've practiced the top end. We've practiced that speed. So here's where we know we should be. Don't go past that, because this is the score you're going to have when that all works out. And that's, just knowing and planning.
I love that. I also like how, especially I noticed this in the reining, especially, is that people sometimes you'll go to those weekend shows and it's a great time to school your horse, because obviously those older horses who have been doing these reining patterns for a long time, they learn that you're going to change leads in the middle. They learn that you're going to
Sure.
stop as you get down the arena. These patterns are different, but they're not different enough that these horses get smart. So I like that, obviously everyone knows about like how you can go and school your horse, but I like that it's like a schooling show almost for your riders as well, to like just get in there, get your, any kind of nervous jitters out of the way and just ride your horse, and you're going to feel more confident for the bigger shows where their goals are.
Oh, for sure. I feel like probably more than not, when we're schooling, it's more for the rider than the horse most of the time. But it allows them to go in there and think about themselves. I'll tell them like, hey, I don't care if he runs off down the pen. I want to see how you would show that when we go to the horse show. If it's something that he kind of does or whatever. Okay, well, we'll go in there and get real comfortable with that, and then show it to me and sell it. So just being prepared and putting yourself in those uncomfortable situations, so when they show up, you're ready to rock.
Kind of going to another topic. I meant to ask this earlier when we were talking a little bit about your mentors and how you kind of came up in the industry, but were there any horses who kind of stood out in terms of like kind of pushing you to go to the next level, or any runs that really stand out that even, boosted your own confidence as a rider and a trainer?
For sure. I think the one horse that comes to mind is when I worked for Dutch Chapman out on the East Coast there. I ran for the Rookie Pro World title, and we ended up reserved, but I showed a horse named Who Is McMurtry. He was owned by, at the time, Holly Bray, and she let me campaign him. And we, the world title deal is you're going to a lot of horse shows. And he was a really cool horse, but he would get smart in the pen, just like we were talking about. And so it was always kind of a mental game to get him to be ready to go, or trick him to go in there and show good all the time. But I think that run, or showing that horse and getting to show that, just was a confidence boost that like, yeah, okay, I can go make some runs. I can put down some good scores on a horse that maybe wasn't exactly always easy. So that's one that really sticks out. And I can't say that I have any great, awesome horses or runs that really stick out to me, except for where I'm at kind of now, and where I've been in the past few years, just growing my business. Because like I said, I was riding whatever I could ride, and now I've got a really good group of clients, and they've got behind me with horsepower. And so just now, as I'm starting to ride nicer horses, they're teaching me so much every day. Um, it's just like, man, this is a good horse, and it's elevated my game, obviously. But just being around those good horses, and then obviously always around good horsemen, I think that's what sticks out the most to me as I move along in my journey. and I'm excited to go show, especially some of these young ones I got. But I think showing that white horse definitely taught me that I can go show. And now that I'm getting some horses that can definitely go do it, I'm excited.
I love when people, I love asking that question because the answers I always get are, it's never a horse that they won like a ton of money on or won this huge title with. It's always one that like kind of challenged you as a rider or taught
Sure.
you to kind of, step it up. And I
Sure.
think that's really cool and fascinating because, most people they expect to hear like, oh, well, it was this horse that I just won, X, Y, and Z on and all this money. But it's those horses that challenge you, man, that they bring you to the next level and they get you ready for the next one you're gonna ride.
Oh, for sure. And saying that, Nicole, makes me remember like back at Finley. Um, and I could ask any of the instructors that were there to this day, and they would remember him. We would always get colts to start our sophomore year, and obviously every year, but it was our sophomore year, and I got this big pleasure bred paint stud, and he was so bad. He would like come at you in the round pen. I think it took us like 2 weeks just to get the saddle on him. We'd have to like hobble him, and it was just bad, and the owners wouldn't gild him. And of course I always seem to kind of get these horses, but his he just taught me, like, I finally got him riding around. We had to do all kinds of different tricks and just took a lot of time, and he was mean. And then eventually he wasn't mean. But I always look back on that horse, especially if I get a tough one or whatever. I'm like, well, I rode that sucker, so come at me, we'll be fine. So yeah, it's just uh going back to him is like one day he bucked me off so hard he bucked me right out of my boots. I had like one on one side of the arena and one on the other side of the arena. So it's like, if I could do that, we're good with anything. So it is always the tough ones.
And the moral of that story is a stallion always makes a great gelding.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Moral of the story is, yeah, it makes a great gelding.
It sounds like obviously coming up through Finley, you guys work with a ton of young horses, and you've talked a little bit about how you have a lot of young ones that you're kind of molding for. Sounds like maybe next year's futurity season. Do you find yourself gravitating towards those young ones? Do you? I know like there are people who prefer the Derby horses, waiting for them to get a little older before they're going in the show pen. But then there are also people who just like kind of thrive off of picking one out as a yearling or a 2-year-old and just kind of like seeing that raw potential.
Right. I like the young ones. I mean, a good horse is a good horse no matter what its age is. But especially as we're kind of rebuilding here, I like the young ones. I like picking them out, especially if my clients are okay with taking the risk, and hopefully the process works out. But again, I'm not trying to push them to be anything they're not. So if we get one, I'm like, hey, it's not going to work out as a 3-year-old, but I think, they got all the 4-year-old stuff now. It'll work out. Then let's just be patient and bring it on. But I like that. And kind of now, as I've gotten more into my business, like, I don't have to worry about something maybe someone else created or a problem that someone else has. Like, I know this horse through and through. Anything good it does, I put in there. Anything bad it does, I put in there, but I know how to fix it. Um, but I've built it. I know it through and through. And that's something that down the road is easier for me and easier for the non-pro because they've seen it be built. I know what screws to tighten down when they come off. So that's kind of why I gravitate towards the young ones. Not saying they have to be in my program the whole time, but something that's still kind of in that younger age that I can still put what I want on it.
When you're looking for like maybe a coming 2-year-old or something in that age range, what is it that you're kind of looking for when you're maybe shopping for one? Because man, picking out a 2-year-old, as a yearling, it blows my mind that some of the people are able to do because they're seeing something that in 2 years is going to look totally different and be much bigger and just the athletic side of it, all of it.
Right. I think, yeah. And it's tough no matter who you are. Obviously, you're going to kind of gravitate maybe towards the bloodlines that you like riding or what catches your eye. But there's been a few that we've been lucky on that I just, they were built well. They had a good mind. You watch them lope across the pasture field. They were nice. Maybe they weren't bred the best, but that particular individual was nice, just balanced, strong, good mover, seemed good minded. And for me, that's what I'm looking for, especially in a young one. Like, I want something that looks pretty strong. And then secondly, obviously watch it lope. It's a good loper, but something that looks strong, and I want to maybe move it around the round pen or see what that mind is like, because it can have all the talent in the world, but if they're not good minded, it doesn't matter. So above all, I want them to be strong and sturdy and balanced, but a good minded young one is what I'm looking for.
I like that. Yeah, good minded. Well, you know what? I actually had a really similar conversation with Cole Price, and he was like, you know what? Sometimes those good minded ones are better than the most insanely talented ones because they're just going to
For
go
sure.
farther because they're easier to work with.
For sure. I had this conversation with a few of my clients as we were looking at horses, and some of them were wanting to really step up their game, and I was like, well, we need horses that can really plus maneuvers. But I said at the same time, we looked at some. I mean, I've looked at and rode tons of different horses over the past few months, but the we tried a few horses. My client asked me, well, I don't understand why you like this one better than the other one, because this one could stop a one and this one stops a half. Obviously that one had way more style to it. And I said, well, let me just put it to you this way. I'm a fan of the third place horse. And then he said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, I will take the horse that will go be third or in the top five and show up every single time, rather than a horse that is an absolute freak and gets first one out of every five times. I will gladly just go show up and be consistent and get my name called for something more than to come to the show office and pay my bill, and go get my fifth place check, my fifth place ribbon every time, as opposed to here and there. And I think that comes down to, kind of like what Cole was saying with that good minded horse, man. They'll just go make those runs and you can count on them. Even though you may not win that class, it's still, you're getting your name called. And I think at the end of the day, that's what we all want.
Definitely. Yeah. Horse showing is too expensive to not get your name called every once in a while.
Right.
You've talked a little bit, you've mentioned throughout this podcast, you're currently rebuilding your program. For those who may not be familiar, you had a barn fire happen in early summer and you sustained third-degree burns, and it was a horrendous experience. And I can't even imagine what you've gone through these past couple months, just coming back from being in the hospital and having to rebuild your program. But one thing that really stood out to me was how quickly the reining community came together for you. And Brandon Brandt was the other trainer who you've talked about in this podcast. And without going into it too much, obviously, because I couldn't imagine, again, what you've gone through. But can we talk a little bit about the reining community and just how incredible it is?
Yeah. I mean, after the fire, well, the next day, obviously, I was in the hospital and on the ICU, and I'm a horse trainer. My wife is a school teacher, and so obviously, I'm just like, man, how are we gonna do this? I mean, we have insurance, but this is going to be a lot. And then, uh, well, I guess let me rewind. My wife knew I was going to be okay when they took me to the emergency room, and the doctor came in and said, "Mr. Priest, we're going to airlift you to Columbus Burn Clinic." And up until this point, I was kind of like in shock. I couldn't quit shivering or shaking or anything, but I quit long enough to say, well, actually, Doc, I heard them flights are pretty expensive. I think we should just try to drive it, I'm thinking, man, I'm a horse trainer, guys, come on. But so no, when I saw what was going on and everybody stepping up, and just the outpouring, and I was in the hospital for a month, and we would get cards and letters, and I mean checks from people that I didn't even know. I mean, from California, I mean, everywhere, just, people that didn't know us from Adam, just outpouring, just thinking of you. Hope this helps. And then, of course, like all the donations of just, you know, tack and blankets and just anything you can imagine. Just people were incredible. And it kind of put us at ease a little bit. Like, okay, we'll be all right. Um, but man, I thank you will never be enough to those people. And I just, I really have no words for it. It is still today. I can't even fathom it. Um, it was just incredible. The only thing that kind of, I couldn't understand it. But the guy that, professional horse services that put on the auction, Mike Jennings said, I said, man, Mike, he called me and asking me some stuff. I said, I just don't understand why everybody is giving us, you know, donations and everything. And I said, we'll be okay, but I just can't fathom this. And he said, well, he said, you guys have went through everybody's worst nightmare. And, and, if this is what they can do, because they can't believe that you're living it, then this is what they have to offer. And I got thinking, well, if it were us watching that happen to someone else, obviously, me and Brandon would be there if we could, helping them guys out or doing what we could too. But just the magnitude of it is truly, truly amazing. And we'll forever be grateful to everybody for that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's the one thing. It's probably the worst thing that anyone could ever imagine going through. And yeah, I just remember when all of it first happened, how quickly those fundraisers and auctions came, and the horses that people, the stallions that they, stud fees and embryos. And I mean, you saw everything from training to lessons to, I mean, the whole community, every part of it came together. And that's the part that keeps me going on those long days, like seeing the community come together and just knowing how passionate everybody is, and how much they truly care for everybody in this industry. It keeps you going.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it wasn't just the Rainers. I mean, it was from all across the horse industry. And I think that's pretty cool because, we can all get in our own little worlds and, oh, the Rainers are better than these and these are better than those. But at the end of the day, we all do it for one reason, and that's because we love the horse, no matter what the discipline. And I think, something like that happens and everybody just comes together, and that for that little moment or whatever, it kind of shows everybody is just in it for the horse. And we, at the end of the day, have to have each other's back. And it was just pretty amazing.
On a much smaller level, your clients too I mean, like the way that they've written about you and talked about you, and it's how great to have such an insane close community who's there for you and for Brandon and just everybody in general. And it's got to be nice to just know how great your clients are and how much of a family you guys are.
Oh man, for sure. I mean, Brandon and Kathy and their crew, obviously they lost everything too, but they were at the same time. I mean, while I was in the hospital, I had a few horses that survived. They took those in and they were riding them for me. And I'm like, man, you guys, you guys don't need my extra, but that's just how great of people they are. And then, yeah, my clients, man, I have a great group of clients. They just got behind me and they believe in the program. They believe in me. And I was a little like, I mean, I would understand like, hey, I don't know how long I'm going to be down for. I don't know what's going to happen. Um, so I would understand like, hey, if you got to go do what you got to do, but they all hung in there and they all told me like, hey, we're ready. When you get better, let's go find some new horses. Obviously, we're not happy about what happened and we miss our horses, but got to get back in the saddle. And and we did, and we are. Just after the fraternity, I got the last horse bought for our last client that was needing a horse, and I was just scratching my head the other day, like, man, how did we go from being in the hospital just a few months ago to we're almost up to a full barn again, and really good horses, and the clients are coming back stronger and more gung-ho than ever. It's just awesome. Like, God is good, and I'm truly blessed for what we have and the people that He's surrounded me with.
It's got to be a really great feeling just knowing that you have your barn, you have your community. You guys are gearing up for a fantastic 2025. What is kind of in the forecast for next year? What are you looking forward to doing?
Going to the horse show. We've already started planning. Obviously, we're looking at trying to got some of the younger and aged event horses, so definitely kind of calculating out some shows where those 3-year-olds are going to go. Hopefully, go to some of the bigger ones. We got some good Derby horses. We're wanting to go get in some of the bigger shows and enter some of the Derbies. Just trying to step it up next year and go give it our all.
For those who want to follow along on your journey to the show pen for 2025, where can they find you online, on social media?
Priest Performance Horses is on Facebook, and it's also Priest Performance Horses on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for talking with us, and congratulations on your win. I know I'm the one that had to read through all of the entries, and yours just stood out for so many reasons, and you're everything that we as an industry should be promoting when it comes to our professionals. So I'm just so happy that, that we could have you on the podcast and learn more about your program and your background.
Yeah, thank you, Nichole. I appreciate it. And it was a big honor, and I'm glad that you picked me.
Thank you guys for tuning into the Ride Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and please be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow Horse and Rider Magazine on social media and find us at horseandrider.com to see all the cool things that we're up to. And if you have any comments or questions, please be sure to hit us up at horseandrider@equinenetwork.com. We want to hear from you guys. And if you like what you're listening to, please be sure to leave us a review on iTunes.